Hey everyone, welcome to my journey through Metroid, a series where I'm diving into one of the most beloved franchises of all time as a tribute to one of its biggest fans. And today we are kicking it off with the game that started it all, Metroid on the NES. So we're finally here. We're finally getting this series off the ground. Sorry it took a little longer than expected, but we're finally here and we're ready to go. And this review is probably going to be a little more personal feeling than review. I am still going to talk about gameplay, talk about all the normal review aspects, but this game is kind of a special place since I'm the most familiar with it and it has a lot of memories for me. So yeah, it's going to be a little more about my feelings about the game and how it relates to my brother, which this whole series may end up being. But anyway, let's go ahead and let's get into it.
The challenge is Metroid. The power is Nintendo. Defend the planet Cephas against the evil Mother Brain. It's survival or destruction. Do battle or die. Metroid only from Nintendo.
So as I've said, I have a lot of experience with this game, so I'm pretty familiar with it. And right off the bat, when you fire this game up, the intro for me really sets the tone for the entire thing. Beginning with the music, of course. I think this soundtrack is one of the best soundtracks on the NES. I mean, you can say what you want for it being 8-bit and everything, but this soundtrack's always had a special place for me, just from my familiarization with it. Call it nostalgia if you will, but I mean, this opening track, for how simple this track is, it really gives you a little bit of a dark tone. You kind of get a prelude to what you're going to be getting into. I think for me, it's always been easy to see the influence from the Alien franchise in this game. I know that it's been somewhat discussed, I think even by devs, that there was a little bit of influence from the Alien franchise, which kind of led into some of the designs in this game, which I think really shows in both the gameplay and maybe even some of the music there too, just the way that it gives you that eerie feeling. But yeah, it's easy to see those influences, and I think for me that's a big part of why I gravitate towards this game specifically, or at least why this franchise was appealing to me when I first played it. And for me, I'm a huge Alien franchise fan. I loved all the movies since my childhood, and that is actually something that both my brother and I did share. I think he was a huge Alien franchise fan himself. Obviously, those first two movies are the be-all end-all for us, but yeah, I think that's where a lot of this leads in, is that we absolutely loved that franchise. We loved everything about it. We loved the Giger influence in those movies, the designs, the stories. I mean, both, they're vastly different films, but they're so good, and obviously that shows. So I think that's a huge reason why, at least for me, that's would be my assumption why my brother gravitated to this franchise so much, because it's just one of those things that gives you that, when you grow up watching something and you have that nostalgia for it, playing something else or even watching something else that, has vague similarities and stuff, it gives you that feeling back, I think. So yeah, I mean, I obviously can only speculate, but I mean, I feel like the fact that this borrowed so much from that franchise, like, it could be, a huge reason. And for me, it's a huge reason why I am interested in this franchise at all. So getting into the gameplay right off the bat here, I'm going to get into the map. I mean, I might as well address it. I think it's the biggest point of contention, at least that I've seen about this game, through anybody that played it back in the day, anybody that is a fan of it, anybody that's not a fan of it, and then, people who've picked it up, new gamers that have picked it up in recent years. It seems like the lack of map in this game has been something that a lot of fans have kind of agreed on, that this game sorely needs. And for me, I get those arguments. I really do. I definitely understand in sections of this game where that can be extremely frustrating. And honestly, you could say that my familiarity with the game, because I played it so much as a kid, I'm sure that's a huge factor why I have the opinion I have, but I honestly don't think the lack of map is really that big of a deal. I mean, of course, yes, it would help exploration through this game tremendously, But I think because I'm so familiarized with where everything is in this game, it doesn't bother me as much. And I think, to be honest, like if I try to look at it objectively, like when I first played this when I was a kid and when I was trying to learn all this repetition and learn where everything is, it was kind of the fun of exploration for me back then, I think. I mean, you know, you could say we didn't know better back then, that having a map would have helped a lot. I mean, if you had a Nintendo Power or you had the guides, then obviously you wouldn't had a huge leg up on this game. But I think part of like NES gaming when we were kids is the idea of learning these repetitive things over and over and playing them over and over, especially because, you know, you didn't have a vast collection of games like you have access to now. So just having to spend so much time with certain games like really made us prone to exploring everything we could in games, getting the most for our money, I guess, or our parents' money out of these games, and really exploring everything they have to offer. So, I mean, that's, when you look at it that way, I definitely see where your opinion could be skewed a little bit. But I don't know. I think that was the fun of it. I think that was part of the fun of playing these games as a kid, is the idea that you don't know, you don't have all the answers. They're not all laid out and right in front of you. And that kind of makes it fun to find those things out. And I think that's maybe another reason why people love modern day Metroidvanias, because they've expanded on that idea. And with, you know, modern technology, they've been able to do a lot more with that. But yeah, it's for me, the fun of exploration is what made this game fun to play through when I was a kid, and discovery and you know, everything that comes along with that. So the map just wasn't ever a huge problem for me. I think in certain sections, like Ridley's lair, it definitely becomes a bit of a problem. I mean, I've even been prone to consulting a guide when I forget what certain things are in Ridley's lair, because it is just way too big. I mean, yeah, that is definitely where I agree with a lot of people, that Ridley's lair is just ridiculously big, and without a guide, not impossible, but very, very difficult to navigate through. Now, with most of the enemies, I think for the most part, which, you know, you know what you're getting out of this. You know, some enemies can be definitely a pain compared to others, but for the most part, you know, nothing too crazy on that front. I will say that the boss fights in this game are extremely underwhelming. I mean, I don't know if that's just something that they didn't get to work on vastly, or maybe they just didn't have, you know, the NES couldn't do enough to really push what they were wanting to do with the bosses. But the two main boss fights with, or I guess you call them sub bosses or whatever, with Ridley and Kraid, are just one of the boring parts of this game. Like, they're just so underwhelming. It's just spam and shoot, spam shooting, and, you know, whatever way you want to do it, with bombs or with missiles or with your laser. It's just spam shooting until they're dead, and like outlast them, pretty much, is the name of the game. And it just leaves nothing fun really for those sections of the game, and that's really like the part that disappoints me the most about this. But I mean, you know, you take what you can get when when you're getting the rest of this game that's so good. I guess I could survive through a few bad boss fights, but I will say, in the very end, fighting Mother Brain obviously is the highlight of the game. That's really one of the best parts, other than like getting certain unlocks and stuff and being able to access new areas. Like, that's really the highlight for me, is fighting the Metroids, or getting through Torian or Tarian, or however you pronounce it, and fighting Mother Brain. Obviously that fight can be extremely frustrating, especially if you're coming into this game for the first time. I can see that fight taking a bit to master and can be a pain, but definitely doable. From what I remembered, I mean, when I was a kid, I never got to Mother Brain. The only times that I ever did get to Torian, I was terrible at fighting Metroids, so that's really what always kept me from ever advancing and defeating this game in my youth. But one of my favorite memories of this game is watching my brother defeat Mother Brain. It's one of the most vivid memories I have of Metroid, is remembering him playing this game. I mean, I've There's so many games I remember watching him play and defeat, like Mega Man, like the Mega Man games and the Castlevanias and Gauntlet and Final Fantasy and what have you. You know, pretty much everything that was of this age. I think for most of my life that Mother Brain fight has really stood out. Like I remember watching it and it being such a huge accomplishment for him. And like for me, as gosh, I was probably a 5-year-old kid at the time, maybe 4 or 5-year-old kid, like seeing him accomplish that, like it was just the coolest thing I'd ever seen. I mean, obviously video games for me at that age were, you know, mind blowing when all of those kids that grew up in that age, you know, that just being able to play video games was mind blowing. But yeah, witnessing that battle for the first time was a huge memory, huge in shaping my opinion of this game. And it's really like one of the main gaming memories I have. I mean, he and I shared a lot of gaming memories over the years, playing WoW together and playing, you know, all kinds of different games together. But I always remember all those times watching him play and the journey like to defeat a video game that he had. Those were always some of my favorite memories as a kid. But the Mother Brain fight is something I will never forget. And we touched on design earlier, but I will say a lot of the different sections, I mean, some of it leads a little to the imagination, obviously. Like in Brinstar, the only way they could distinguish different areas was by changing the color in them. And so I can see that being a little bit bland for some. I mean, I think when you start getting into like the Ridley areas and the Kraid areas, the change of scenery is really, really great. But I think, like we said before, the alien influence in the game design is so incredible, and I love the enemy design. The enemy design is great. Getting back to the Kraid and Ridley boss fights, I think that's like the one place also with gameplay being somewhat bad, and then I think their designs being good, but the fact that your character is almost bigger than them is just it's so underwhelming. I think everything about them is underwhelming other than their layers. I think their layers are a lot more fun than the actual final fight with them. But yeah, their designs really leave something to be desired because it's just not quite there. But the music for both is some of my favorite on the console. I think Ridley's Lair is obviously an incredibly memorable song if you have a lot of experience with these games, but the Kraid Lair music is absolutely fantastic. It is one of my favorite tracks on the NES console. I don't know what it is about it, but it is such a great track for me, and it's something that always kept me coming back. I think in the music, the entire soundtrack for this game is really one of the main things that kept me coming back, which is, or what I gravitate to in video games, is if they have a lousy soundtrack, I can maybe power through them if they have decent gameplay, but a great soundtrack can make a bad game a much more enjoyable experience for me. And with that too, a lot of the sound effects and stuff that in this game were obviously because we had so much experience with it, I think very memorable for us. I mean, I think there's a few games that my brother and I used to always play that he and I kind of made noises for. We had like impressions of, like in Gauntlet, where the noise that your character makes when you eat food was something that he and I used to always do to each other all the time, just especially like when we were eating dinner or what have you. It was always like one of those noises that we shared that was like, I don't know, almost like borderline like a term of endearment for our brotherhood. But Metroid was really another one of those. A lot of the like sound effects and things that happen in this noises that happen in this game were super memorable, and specifically the rippers, which are like the little floating guys that are like kind of riddled throughout Brinstar. The noise they make when your regular laser hits them. I can remember a memory of him playing this game where I don't know why, but he found that noise hilarious. And I remember once watching him play, and he sat there for maybe a good like minute just spamming shooting the guy over and over and over and over and over, so it would make that really loud, like almost like an alarm sound that thing makes when you hit it, just because he got a kick out of it, of how much it annoyed me. But yeah, no, I love the sound design in this game. It's very well done. Obviously with music, as I've already said, and with the actual effects of the game itself. And so overall, for me, this is one of the best on the NES. I think it's a game that's somewhat contentious among fans or video game players in general. But I think for me, I mean, you can call it nostalgia, and I'll definitely own that. That for me, it is nostalgia that makes this game so good. But it's the one that I can always go back to, and I do go back to, and it never gets old for me. I mean, there's a lot of memories wrapped up in it, and maybe that's the main reason why I get so much enjoyment out of it. I don't know. To me, that makes it special. So, and I know for Tone, that was possibly a reason as well for why he loved this franchise so much, and why he as well would go back to some of these older games. I don't know how much he would go back to this game specifically, but I know that he had a soft spot for a lot of the games in the franchise, a lot of the really renowned games that are in this franchise. And I don't know. I mean, really, all I can think of is that they were comfort food. I mean, I know that this one specifically is comfort food for me, and I can only imagine that that's what it was for him. It reminded him of better times, of when he was a kid, when you didn't have a care in the world, and you were just living your life, and reminded them of those days of experiencing things like this for the first time, and the discovery aspect of these games, and getting to explore, and probably reminding him of his childhood as well, as much as it does me. I can only really think that that's the biggest reason why he loved this franchise so much, is that it was near and dear because it was one of the first that I can remember of him playing in his youth. And for me, it's always going to have a special place. I mean, it has its flaws here and there. It is not the best game in the franchise, I would say. Even not having played through a lot of the rest of the franchise, I'm pretty positive that it really isn't the best in the franchise, but it's a solid game. I think if you grew up with it and grew up with an NES, it probably has a little higher place on the list for you. But fortunately for me, I did grow up with it, and I mean, that's why it holds the spot it does. That's why it is one of my favorite games on the NES. And I'm glad to have taken the leap again into it. I'm glad that I got to start over from the beginning and finally really do a full playthrough and beat of this darn game. I mean, it's a beat that's eluded me for a good chunk of my life. So finally getting it knocked out, getting to experience that countdown ending, which really isn't as hectic as I remember it being when I was a kid, but it was definitely something, and I'm glad to have gone back and revisited it. And it's going to be a game that I keep revisiting in the future. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. Keep an eye out for the next video in this series. Now, we're not going to go completely in order here of release date or chronology, but what we are going to do, because I think it needs to be done after playing this one, because of the era it came out with, because of the limitations of it, I think it was time. I think we're going to skip ahead real quick in our series, and I'm gonna do Zero Mission next. I've already started playing the game, and obviously it has a ton of quality of life improvements over this game, but I think would be fitting for us to do a little bit of a comparison from this one to the next. Instead of getting straight into Super Metroid, I think taking a stop off at Zero Mission is really somewhat needed, and would be fitting. So be sure to catch that next one. Hopefully it won't take me too long to put out, but that'll be the next one coming up in our series. And that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I hope that at least I was able to let you peek a little bit into my mind on this game. And while I didn't go into a lot of detail and didn't go into a lot of traditional review stuff about this, I hope this was at least enjoyable for you. So thank you for watching, and be sure to check out that Zero Mission video.
銀河連邦司令メトロイドを破壊せよ。
地底深く広がる迷路要塞に宇宙征服の野望が渦巻く。
行け宇宙戦士サム。
ファミリーコンピュータディスクカードにアクション&迷路ゲームメトロイド。